President Bola Tinubu to mark Democracy Day with State of the Nation's address at the National Assembly complex in Abuja today. Federal Road Safety Corps urges caution on roads as Nigeria marks Democracy Day today. On the African scene, starvation warning in Kenya as children fills refugee camps after United States aid funds cuts. On the foreign scene in downtown Los Angeles, it's under curfew for second night after hundreds of people were arrested in the ongoing immigration raids. Calm down. Dozens of Palestinians have been killed while seeking aid in Gaza. And in business, Nigeria records 5.17 trillion naira trade surplus in first quarter of 2025. And finally, in sport, ex-Chelsea international Mikel Obi questions Chelsea's transfer policy after Victor Osimhen's snub. Now the news in details. President Bola Tinubu will today mark Nigeria's Democracy Day with his maiden State of the Nation's address. The president will address a joint session of the Senate and the House of Representatives, speaking on the State of the Nation. This year's celebration is significant, coming 26 years after Nigeria's return to democracy in the year 1999. The anniversary of June 12, 1993 presidential election, which was won by business mogul Chief MKO Abiola but annulled by the military government, is being commemorated today. Recall that in year 2018, President Muhammadu Buhari declared June 12 as Democracy Day, replacing May 29. Today's celebration will feature a special joint sitting of the National Assembly, where President Bola Tinubu will deliver his address. As Nigeria marks Democracy Day today, the Federal Road Safety Corps has urged Nigerians to prioritize safety on the roads. In a statement, the Corps Marshal Malam Ahmed appealed to motorists to demonstrate moderation to take care of themselves and other road users while using the roads. Mohammed noted that national holidays like Democracy Day typically witness increased human and vehicular movement, which, if not well managed, could result in avoidable road crashes. He urged all Nigerians to drive responsibly, obey traffic regulations, and avoid dangerous practices such as driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs and driving against traffic rules. And on the African scene, hundreds of thousands of people in Kenya refugee camps are likely to risk starvation due to the United States funding cuts, which have reduced the rations to their lowest ever levels. The World Food Program has had to slash rations to 30% of the minimum recommendation amount, leaving refugees to struggle for survival. The United States had provided around 70% of the funding for the World Food Program's operations in Kenya. The situation is there with refugees and more refugees likely to face starvation unless more funding is being sorted. Felix Okesh, the World Food Program head of refugee operations in Kenya, warns that the prospect and the lack of more funding for the World Food Program is not a good idea. And on the foreign scene, a curfew is in place for the second night in downtown Los Angeles after nearly a week of unrest over the United States immigration raids. Multiple people were arrested for violating the curfew, which was imposed by the Los Angeles mayor Karen Bass. The mayor blamed the demonstration on the United States President Donald Trump's immigration raids. The deployment of federal troops to Los Angeles has sparked a row between Trump and the state officials, with California Governor Gavin Newsom accusing the president of an assault on democracy. Dozens of Palestinians have been killed while trying to access aid in Gaza, according to hospitals in the region. 2 hospitals in Gaza City reported 25 people were killed. The Hamas-run Civil Defense Agency claimed Israeli forces opened fire, while Israeli military says troops fired warning shot as suspects approached them. Reports from the ground indicate chaos and desperation, with Palestinians rushing to aid distribution centers despite the risk of being killed. Eyewitnesses describe scenes of utter despair, with people being crushed by lorries and shots by the Israeli forces. On the business scene, Nigeria's trade surplus has increased to 5.17 trillion naira in the first quarter of 2025, marking a 51.0% increase from the previous quarter, 3.42 trillion naira. According to the Foreign Trade Goods Statistics Report, the significant growth is largely driven by crude oil export, which accounted for 62.89% of total exports, valued at 12.96 trillion naira. Nigeria's trade for first quarter of 2025 reached 36.02 trillion naira, a 6.19% increase from the same period in 2024. Imports stood at 15.43 trillion naira, with China being Nigeria's largest import partner, amounting for at least 30.19% of total imports. The agricultural import sector also saw significant growth, with imports increasing by 12.52% to 1.04 trillion naira in this quarter. And finally, in sports, Nigeria's former Chelsea midfielder John Mikel Obi has criticized Chelsea's decision to overlook Nigerian striker Victor Osimhen in favor of Liam Delap from Ipswich Town. Mikel expressed disappointment that Chelsea opted for the 22-year-old Delap, who scored 12 goals for a relegated Ipswich side last season, instead of investing in an established goal scorer like Victor Osimhen. Mikel Obi emphasized that Chelsea's culture demands winning, and Victor Osimhen is fit and is a perfect replacement and a perfect fit for such role. Before we end the world news, here is a recap of the highlights. President Bola Tinubu will be at the National Assembly today to mark Democracy Day with the State of the Nation address. The Federal Road Safety Corps has urged caution on roads as Nigerians marks Democracy Day today. In Africa, starvation warning in Kenya as children flee refugee camps after the United States aid funds cut. And in downtown Los Angeles is under curfew for second night after hundreds were arrested in immigration raid clampdown. We also told you that dozens of Palestinians were killed while seeking aid in Gaza. On the business scene, Nigeria records 5.17 trillion naira trade surplus in first quarter of 2025. And in sport, ex-Chelsea midfielder and Nigeria international Mikel Obi has questioned Chelsea transfer policy after Victor Osimhen's snub. And that was the world news on Anna 103.5 FM as edited by Adedamola Saka. I am Seun Oyelowo. Thanks for listening and stay tuned for other programs we have lined up for your listening pleasure on Honor 103.5 FM. Good afternoon.